Folks, just a couple thoughts from me on this story. Yes, in last night's State of the Union speech, President Joe Biden had a whole bunch of whoppers and tall tales and fabrications that never seem to coincide with factual reality. The Committee to Unleash Prosperity's hotline reports on the budget deficit, a familiar Biden untruth when he says he reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion. Now, that's a number he's carried on with for years, and the Washington Post gave him a bottomless Pinocchio for it. The reality is Mr. Biden generated about $6 trillion of red ink during his term so far, and the latest CBO baseline shows that federal debt in public hands is projected to rise to $48 trillion, or 116% of GDP, both unheard of numbers. The House Budget Committee estimates that Biden's most recent budget includes $82 trillion in spending over 10 years, eclipsing 24.8% of GDP, which is $21 trillion higher than the pre-Biden CBO projections and is 21.1% more spending than the historical average of the past half century. Then, of course, Mr. Biden gives the usual left-wing, we will make the rich pay their fair share, which is always an amusing charge, given the fact that the top 1% of earners pay nearly half of the federal income tax, 46% to be exact. Even though, by the way, they only earn 26% of the income, they pay 46% of the tax. Go figure. By the way, study after study shows that lower tax rates reduce tax sheltering and produce more tax revenues. Biden, of course, with the usual far-left Democratic class warfare, promises to grow the economy. Get this, with a soak-the-rich tax plan that will raise the corporate tax, nearly double the capital gains tax, quadruple the stock buyback tax, impose a new 25% wealth tax on unrealized capital gains on billionaires. But Biden defines billionaires as anyone with more than $100 million, showing once again that he cannot count. Then, of course, he keeps telling us that he inherited a terrible economy from Donald Trump. The only problem with that assertion is, in the third quarter of 2020, Trump's COVID V-shaped recovery produced a 33% growth rate, a 4.1% GDP in the fourth quarter of 2020, and a 6.5% growth rate in the first quarter of 2021. And get this, that was an inflation rate of 1.4%. Now, this is not an economy on the brink of disaster. This is an economic silver platter that Trump handed to Biden, who then proceeded to slam it into the ground with a 9% inflation rate peak and 2 negative GDP quarters in the first half of 2022. So go figure. Now, one of the many troubles in the Biden economy is the affordability crisis, where typical working families have lost money in the last 3 years because of high prices of essential goods and services and lackluster income. During the Trump years, working folks got a 9% pay increase adjusted for inflation. During the Biden years, they lost nearly 5%. The average oil price under Mr. Trump, $53 a barrel. Under Biden so far, $80 a barrel. The average inflation rate under Biden, 6% at an annual rate for 3 years. Under Mr. Trump, it was 1.9% for his entire 4-year term. Adjusted for the pandemic, Trump created 6.4 million new jobs. Mr. Biden only 5.5 million. And, of course, last night, Mr. Biden continued his free-spending ways, adding a new wrinkle this time. Now he's going to try to push out a $400 mortgage credit for everybody to deal with the mortgage homeownership affordability crisis, where mortgage rates, by the way, were 2.5% during Trump and now over 7% under Biden. And, of course, Mr. Biden wants to forgive student loans, even though the Supremes have ruled it unconstitutional. Plus, he wants to increase a refundable earned income tax credit and a refundable child tax credit and a permanent expansion of supersized Obamacare. Subsidies. And the Biden climate war against fossil fuels continues while he does nothing to solve the open border war against illegal immigrants and the illegal immigrant-related crime wave. Yes, Mr. Biden was still standing at the end of his speech. But no, doesn't seem like he's doing a thing to make America great again. And that's my riff for this evening.